the team has been great even without Curry on the court this year, but it's only going to make that team so much better. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. It's your boy Dom, and we're gonna get right into things here today. So, today, we are talking about the final and the awaited return of Klay Thompson to the Golden State Warriors. He is supposed to be returning this upcoming weekend versus, I want to say, the Cleveland Cavaliers was the report from Adrian Wojnarowski. And yeah, it's looking good for the Warriors right now. Obviously, sitting at the number 1 seed in the Western Conference at 29-7. Obviously, Steph Curry is having a not a rookie of the year, a MVP caliber year. And yeah, so Woj tweeted yesterday, which yesterday was January 3rd. So he tweeted January 3rd that Klay Thompson is eyeing a return Sunday versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that's pretty crazy to think about. That is the game on the 9th of January, and so they do have 2 games before that, one tomorrow on Wednesday and one the following day on Thursday, and then they have a break until they initially would then play the Cavs. And if this is his first game back, that's looking honestly pretty good for him, because it's kind of a cool thing because of the Cavs and Warriors rivalry back when LeBron was there, for Klay to come back against a more meaningful team in that type of circumstance. But also, really, it's going to be a good test of how well this team works against a decent team, because the Cavaliers are good. Cavaliers, are currently the 6th seed in the East and are 21-17, a very respectable record, for especially compared to what a lot of people thought of them coming into the year. A lot of people said Detroit and the Cavs are going to be fighting for the number 1 pick, and the Cavs proved a lot of people wrong, a lot due to Evan Mobley really coming in and being an impactful rookie, Jared Allen doing a lot more than most of the media gave him credit for, and then Darius Garland really taking a big time step up to really make stuff happen. And that team has been pretty decent this year. But as for the Warriors, this is a team that obviously has been also pretty decent this year, and you've had a number of guys stepping up, so it'll be interesting to see how Klay Thompson, after over 500 days of not playing NBA basketball, works himself into this team. Now, I think initially in his first game, we're not going to see a lot of him. He might maybe get 20 minutes or something like that. Maybe he starts, maybe he comes off the bench, I'm not sure. But regardless, I think he's on a minutes restriction for his first couple games back, just due to how long he's been out, even if he is fully healthy, just to kind of ease his way, at least cardio-wise, even into NBA basketball, because we know a lot of NBA players coming into the year have to play themselves in shape. It was something that Jokic was a big thing with back, prior to really the last couple seasons, and really prior to the bubble, was we saw Jokic come into the league, into the season super heavy, and then he'd work himself into a better form as the year went on. Now, he's gotten a lot better at that, and he doesn't have to do that quite as much anymore. But a lot of NBA players, yes, there's cardio, and then there's playing NBA games, which is just a different level of cardio. And so I think we'll see a minutes restriction on Klay Thompson, not super strict, if he goes to 21 minutes, that's the end of the world or anything like that, but they're going to try and keep him not winded for his first couple games, I'd expect. And who knows, maybe one of his first couple games he really goes off and kind of says, has his I'm back type moment. And I could definitely see it. I could definitely see, this is a guy that scored 60 in 3 quarters. He's the 2nd greatest 3-point shooter of all time. I think the big thing to look at will be his defense, and how well that translates. But at worst, he'll still be a good team defender, even if he's not a overwhelmingly strong wing defender for them as he was in the past. And having Andrew Wiggins really, I think, helps on that front, because you can put Andrew Wiggins on the opposing team's best perimeter creator, and I think at this point, the way that he's really developed in the Warriors system, I would feel confident with Andrew Wiggins on your best perimeter player, Draymond Green on your best post player, and then, Steph and Klay and whatever the 5th guy is out there with them, whether it be like a Nemanja Bjelica or a Jordan Poole or Jonathan Kuminga, maybe an Andre Iguodala, whoever it is, out of the plethora of guys that can kind of fit in there. Maybe it's more of a center where it's Kevon Looney, or once James Wiseman's eventually healthy, maybe it's him, right? Whoever that other guy is, if those three can kind of work as a team defensive unit, the way that the Warriors defensive unit has been working all year, I think that'll bode super, super well for them. But I think the nice thing about having Klay back is it's going to put so much pressure off Curry. And the way we've seen Curry perform the last 2 years, without Klay, I think we're going to even see him potentially lock hold of the MVP conversation here as the year winds down, having Klay Thompson on his team, because he's just going to be able to do whatever he wants, because you can't leave off Klay. And a lot of times I think, when you watch Warriors games, sometimes Jordan Poole gets those wide open shots, and he hits them fairly regularly. He's developed into a very solid player. I want to say he's averaging almost 20 points on the year. Yeah, he's averaging 18 points on the year so far. And so being able to move him into a potentially a 6-man role as the season winds down is going to be super, super big for them, and super, super big on the playoffs as well, to kind of match opposing benches. And then having Klay Thompson and his just ability to, if he's open, he's going to hit the shot type thing, is going to be amazing. And who knows, maybe he's even a better shooter than he was before. I know that's kind of hard to believe, but the guy had 2 lower body injuries, and what can you do when you have 2 lower body injuries and you're a basketball player? You can shoot the ball. And so, maybe he doesn't quite have that in your face type shooting reps, or coming off the dribble, like fast-paced. I mean, obviously he's healthy, and so that's why he's able to play in NBA games, and he can come off the dribble and stuff like that. But maybe he doesn't quite have as many of those reps. But what he's the best at, which is catch and shooting, he might be even better at, because especially, rehabbing his first injury, he was definitely working on that. And then rehabbing his second injury, he definitely went back to only being able to catch and shoot and stuff like that. So I think we could see Klay Thompson come back and really be impactful for this Warriors team. And it's crazy to think, because even without Klay, I think this team is a contender, and adding Klay, it almost is insane to think how well they're going to match up against some teams. Because if you're looking even just in the Western Conference trying to make the finals, against Phoenix, you match up so much better, because you can put Klay Thompson on Devin Booker, you can put Andrew Wiggins on Devin Booker. If Klay Thompson isn't back to form, you just put him on Mikal Bridges. If he is back to form, that's a lock. 2 super, super strong defenders that you could throw at Chris Paul and Devin Booker, or however that works. Now, I probably would see him more on Mikal Bridges than anything there, but it helps you so much defensively against them. Against Utah, it helps you space out and force Gobert off the floor continually more, which is how you beat Utah in the playoffs. Memphis, I think the star power, the experience is going to do a lot for you. And then matching up with their wing players like a Dillon Brooks, like a Desmond Bane, stuff like that, you have a little bit more size than having a Jordan Poole out there, which helps you match up defensively with that type of thing. And then Dallas. I think Dallas is really, really where it's super interesting. Now, I did skip over the Nuggets, but I'm going to get back to them. And Dallas is super interesting to me, because I think that they're kind of like the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, right? They can be super, super good, and they can be kind of meh. And I think in a playoff series, Luka is going to be super, super good. So if Klay Thompson can kind of be something defensively, like something good defensively, having so many guys that you can throw at Luka. I mean, if you just go down this Warriors roster, and I've named a few of them so far in this video, but you've got Andre Iguodala, Jonathan Kuminga, Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, Otto Porter, just a plethora of guys that you can throw at Luka Doncic to try and slow him down throughout a playoff series or something like that. And right now, you're not too far off of facing a Dallas in the first round or anything like that, so that could be helpful there. Back to the Nuggets, though, with Jokic being such an interior force against your team, having more spacing and stuff like that can help you combat the offense that Jokic generates for his team, especially if my Nuggets continue to be injured as we head into the playoffs against the Clippers. Obviously, Kawhi should be, I think, back for the playoffs. I want to say his return is set for like April or something like that, like right before the playoffs or first round of the playoffs or something like that. So if you're playing them in the first round and you need to match up there, if Klay Thompson again can be, at that point he's got a couple months under his belt of playing NBA basketball again, if he can kind of have that defensive ability, a little bit of some, you can throw Andrew Wiggins on one of them and put Klay on the other. If you want to keep kind of Klay on the secondary guy, I'm again perfectly comfortable throwing Andrew Wiggins on whoever has the hot night there. and giving Klay that secondary assignment. And that does so much for the Warriors because it's going to keep a lot of guys, like bench guys that are going to come in for 10 minutes or something like that. They're going to be so much rejuvenated because their job isn't just going to be to guard the best player on the roster. Now you have Jonathan Kuminga, who's going to develop continually throughout the year, as he's done so far. Now you're going to have Andre Iguodala. So you're going to have all these good defensive players that you have on your roster defending maybe not as good of players, right? Maybe a Reggie Jackson gets that assignment or something like that for the Clippers, where it makes it so much easier to kind of shift your guys around and take the load off. And for stretches, you have Kuminga and Iguodala on those bigger name guys, and that keeps some of your star players like a Klay Thompson, like Andrew Wiggins, so much healthier and ready to go and just ready to play basketball, right? Not completely exhausted. And then I think obviously the big thing everybody wants to talk about would be the Lakers there in the Western Conference. And it helps you match up on LeBron a lot more, having multiple guys you can throw at him, having a Draymond Green, having a Andre Iguodala, having a Klay Thompson, having an Otto Porter Jr., having a Jonathan Kuminga, having an Andre Iguodala. 6 or 7 guys that you can throw at LeBron all game long. He's not going to have a break against a bad player unless he gets switched onto a Nemanja Bjelica or a Steph Curry or something like that, where it's a lot easier for him to score. And that's where kind of being able to move Jordan Poole to the bench is super helpful, because when you get in these playoff scenarios, teams target your weakest defensive link, which with you already having Steph Curry out there, it makes it so much harder to continually have defensive stops. And now the Warriors defensive rotation and everything like that is phenomenal. If you guys haven't seen the Thinking Basketball video on it, make sure you guys go check that out. But he really breaks it down super well on how well they just rotate and communicate and everything like that, and that's why they've been such a good defensive team this year. But when you don't have Jordan Poole and Steph Curry on the floor, having more athletic wings that not only fit that system more, but are less susceptible of being honed in on for, I gotta go get it, bucket type thing, makes your life a lot easier, because you can just constantly, those guys that would get targeted as much, you're able to hide them a little bit easier, and they aren't overexerting themselves on defense potentially, right? Where in a scenario like that, we could see, and now I haven't really seen this, but in a playoff series or something like that, where you're really targeting in on a guy, a Jordan Poole or a Klay or Steph Curry can be super, super targeted, and that can kind of be more exhausting because they've got more rotations and stuff like that on defense, along with their offensive load that they're expected to carry for the team to be successful. Taking some of that burden off of them and kind of having them in split lineups, I think, is not only going to do wonders for the bench playmaking, as Jordan Poole has really developed as a playmaker as well, but it's going to do wonders for the bench scoring as well, and it's going to keep the team, because the team has been great even without Curry on the court this year, but it's only going to make that team so much better without Curry on the court, because if you have lineups where you have just take out Steph Curry and insert Jordan Poole into that starting lineup, that lineup is still going to function at an elite level without, potentially the MVP on the floor, which is super, super crazy to think about. So what Klay Thompson does is he opens up so many avenues for this team, and it's super interesting to think about. But let me know what you guys think. I'm obviously super interested in seeing how he plays. It's obviously been a long time since we've seen him, but yeah, that's going to do it from me today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe for more, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out, guys.